Live from West Hollywood, it's my WeHo world. Finally happened. I'm with Christopher Maggiolo and Brad Jones. Welcome. Don't go dead on me now, guys. We've been working all day together.
Thanks for having us, Joe.
You guys have been on a very, very interesting quest and project for the last 2 months. This is in the middle of your project. Basically, these guys are from the East Coast. They're from Cambridge, Massachusetts. And basically, they both study gastronomy, which is study of digestive food, or
no, just food in general.
Just food in general.
Art, science, cultural aspects.
When you guys first contacted me, I thought we were going to be stargazing. I thought it was,
we get that.
I thought, oh boy, we're going to be looking at some stars.
Yep.
But anyhow, and so you guys know each other from college, and which was at Boston U.
At Boston University.
At Boston University.
Yes, sir.
You guys decided to do this for many reasons. Okay, you bought a van, a big van. I love the color, it's blue. All right, 1994. Why did you do this? Why did you guys, we take your turns, who's going to talk with? You guys can explain it better than I can.
Yeah, we were just really interested in getting out and finding out where our food comes from, who's doing it. We hear a lot about what's going wrong with our food systems,
right.
Monsanto or distribution
DuPont
issues.
Or something, right?
Yeah, and we were just kind of tired of that. We wanted to figure out what's going right, and so we wanted to get out and talk to the people that are making food, quality food, with good intent and in good ways.
So you, first of all, you had to get your contacts for across the country lined up that you were staying at.
You would think that would be the first thing, but it's been much more organic than that. As we've gone along,
you're right.
Much of it has been
people were expecting you. You just didn't show up anywhere blind.
Of course not.
Right. So
we gave them at least 6 hours.
At least 6 hours. And from I guess your budget really didn't allow to sleep in hotels and things like that.
No, we actually haven't paid for lodging since we left 2 months ago.
We picked up Old Blue, our van that we've been traveling around.
You slept in parking lots in your van, and
Walmart.
Any particular parking lots that you like the best? Walmart, Target.
Walmart's been very useful because they actually have their own security patrols that go around, so you really feel safe and protected.
Now, did you let them know that you were going to be parked there overnight? Or did you tell the security guard? Or
no, they're usually pods of RVs and things in Walmart lots.
Oh, so it's common.
It's apparently a really common way to travel.
So you're tailgating as you did this.
There were people sitting out there reading Newsweek or People magazine like it's a normal thing to do.
You weren't scared at all?
No, I don't think I ever felt unsafe. We call it Walmartisanal.
Yeah. Walmart.
Antithetical to our Walmartian food road trip.
We've seen two Walmartians.
Okay, so of course, the bathroom you just use at Walmart, and so. All right, enough about your hygiene. Okay, you guys look pretty clean to me. This is a show in West Hollywood. So one thing that was very interesting, you went to a distillery, Troy and Sons, platinum whiskey, heirloom whiskey. Why don't you explain this? I think maybe some people drink whiskey out there. Okay, you went to this distillery. It's an heirloom. An heirloom. What does that mean? An heirloom distillery.
Yeah. So Troy is in Asheville, North Carolina, and she's reaching out to old moonshining communities and moonshining families, and is actually
You mean like White Lightning?
Yeah.
Come on.
As in busted by the feds.
Like Granny and Beverly Hillbillies, the XXX.
Because it was illegal is the only reason it still exists. It had to go underground, and so a lot of these heirloom corn varietals have been maintained because of that.
So this is not aged. This is White Lightning.
Yeah, that's unaged.
That's the good
heirloom
stuff.
moonshine.
This is moonshine.
It's moonshine.
They just call it.
It's legal moonshine, so it's technically whiskey, I guess, if you're not moonshining it. But
that's interesting.
Legal stuff.
Was there anything special that they did? Their mash, anything different than say what Jack Daniels would use?
Much smaller.
Yeah, it's much smaller. They actually do everything on site too. They do everything from the mash in to the distilling process to the barrel aging.
Once you start to distill something, doesn't that have to be on site once you start the still process?
That's not true. Most whiskeys, bourbons are actually produced elsewhere and then aged on site, and so.
They're aged in oak barrels.
Which is something we've learned on our trip was that, I mean, I don't know the exact percentage, but a significant amount of whiskey and bourbon is actually produced in southern Indiana. And then despite the different brands and different labeling, it's they may bring it back to their place and give it a different treatment to get their kind of own distinction on it. But, I mean, even something from $20 to $40 brands of whiskey are oftentimes produced in the same place in southern Indiana.
Yeah. Really? What about, okay, so we all know if we're drinking a Scotch whiskey, all true Scotch has to come from Scotland, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
Bourbon, not the case.
They had it first, correct? The Europeans.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they were making Scotch whiskey, and there was Irish Scotch whiskey, which I believe Jameson is the largest distillery in the world. In Ireland.
Sounds accurate.
Yeah, it's in Dublin, I think it is, or outside of Dublin. I just saw it not too long ago. It is. They would consider themselves an heirloom because they just have the one, and by having the one, you keep the flavor, you keep everything, in the family.
Exactly.
I guess. So let's move on to one of my favorite products there. Honey. This is now, where is that from there? That's from...
This is from Missoula, Montana.
Missoula, Montana. Now, these were beekeepers that you went, they were expecting you.
They were expecting
Did you get stung?
No, did not get stung.
They put you up in these really fancy suits. You look really stupid, but...
like a space suit?
It's safe.
Exactly. It's like a painter's jumpsuit with a nice little mesh cover. Sure. Did get a bee inside the mesh. But you just calmly walk outside, pull your hat off, and it flies away. It doesn't really bother you.
And so it's now that honey, it's thicker on the bottom, or it's white on the bottom, and it's lighter up top. Why is that? That's different than the honey I buy at the store, like Sous Bee brand or something like that. Why is that?
A lot of those honeys will be filtered or actually whipped through like a centrifuge and kind of spread out, and then they just recollect it and bottle the clearest parts. This is unfiltered, so you can actually even see some of the pieces of flour and the honeycomb, exactly, that are still floating around in the honey itself. And it's not dangerous at all. Honey is a really sterile product, but it's just unfiltered.
Now, honey is the regurgitation of bee, right? It's eating bee bark.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's delicious.
It's a very good product.
Bees are important for not only producing honey, but they're also probably the most important pollinators. So you need them in regions, agricultural regions.
Try doing that pollination yourself, but you can. We can't do it. We haven't found a way to do
tried.
it. I know. We can try. So now you see in the store, you say honey comes. They say from orange blossom, or this is clover.
Yep.
Is there a particular flower where this honey's from?
Yeah, this one is
knapweed. Right?
It is knapweed, I believe. Yeah, knapweed honey. Knapweed is an invasive plant, an invasive species. A lot of people try to kill it. Sam and his brother.
Where is it indigenous to? Do you know?
I don't know off the top of my head. No idea.
So they're finding use for something that would normally be a baddie.
Sure.
Because this plant, they're the bees, and
they'd spray with herbicide to try to kill and remove, which is really bad for the environment, obviously.
Really bad for bees.
And bad for the bees.
What? Out of all your places, you went to a place that did beans, that did heirloom beans, a place that did corn.
Yep.
Sure.
All right. What was special? What was different about the corn?
So this actually is corn from Three Sisters Nixtamal in Portland, Oregon.
Three Sisters.
Mm-hmm. Three Sisters Nixtamal in Portland, Oregon. And so they don't actually produce corn. What they do is they produce tortillas. But they produce
corn tortillas.
Corn tortillas.
No flour.
No No flour.
No flour.
But they do it in a very traditional way, which is called the nixtamalization process, where you soak the corn overnight in lime.
Right,
And
which
that-
gets out the...
It peels off the skin and allows all the nutrients
so
to
you can
be-
then digest.
to be accessible by our bodies.
I think
Otherwise,
we
they're
went
not.
to war that way somehow, if I recall my history correct, because only the Spanish ladies knew how to do that.
Yeah.
And when corn was so available, and I'll have to check my history, but you've got to get that
do.
outer layer off
Yeah.
for you to get the digestive
Exactly.
properties for it to go into your body. Right?
Diets too rich in corn can cause pellagra or other vitamin deficiencies unless you're preparing it in a certain kind of way. And the traditional methods, which the nixtamalization process promotes, will allow you to get access to all those vitamins.
Yeah.
Well, if
those-
you're not getting any vitamins out of our food, then what the heck, right?
What's the point?
Well, you can always get some cheese whiz.
Really good.
Kraft,
that.
Kraft Siegel. And you went to a cheese place.
Been to a number of
Several.
cheesemakers, brewers, distillers, winemakers.
Oysters.
What was the most oddball thing that you came across?
Oddball.
Oh, okay. Well, we don't want to.
Stumped us. We
Oh,
did
what
go to a
was it?
kombucha
What?
producer.
Kombucha's pretty
Kombucha's
odd.
pretty odd.
What was? Say again.
Kombucha?
What's that?
That is a fermented tea beverage.
Yeah.
So it's basically, you think vinegar.
Right.
Now transfer vinegar to sweet tea. And so you're basically making a sweet tea vinegar of sorts. And it gets that nice mother on top, which is known as a SCOBY, SCOBY, which is a symbiotic...
Scooby? Like Scooby-Doo?
Kind of, close to
Kinda
it.
like that.
Minus one off. But it's a symbiotic community of bacteria and yeast. And it's almost, 20, 30 some organisms coming together in a really unique way to produce the kombucha mother. And people have cultivated it and continue. The only real way to get one is to know somebody who has one and kind of take either one of the mother's babies or part of the mother, and it will grow another one. So it's really, really kind of
Interesting.
grassroots.
Yeah. It's to keep the process going. It's
But who knew?
Right.
And that's one of the reasons why we set off on this road trip, is
Well-
because we were very curious. We wanted to know how our food is produced. And the only real way to do that is to experience it for yourself.
kind of like you went to a bakery, right?
Been to a couple. Bakers are special.
Now,
business.
I'm sure they went out and caught their own yeast, right?
No, honestly, they did.
They did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ambient yeast.
Back in the pioneer days, where we get San Francisco sourdough,
Sure.
it was on the wagon trains, you started your bread going, and if another wagon train pulled up to another wagon train, the ladies would swap a piece of, do you have any yeast going? They would, and that you kept it going.
Yeah.
And that's where we get our traditional sourdough bread from.
Sure.
So, other than going in, now when you get that yeast packet, that Fleischmann's, where do they get that yeast from? Any idea?
They probably culture it in a petri dish. It's probably
In a scientific
It always
laboratory
works.
somewhere.
It always works when I try to make bread. You put it, boom, pops
Doesn't
right
have
up
much
there.
flavor, though,
It
does
really
it?
doesn't have much.
No,
No.
but who would think yeast provides so much flavor? for your-
Absolutely do.
for-
That's
for
what fermentation
Yeast-
is.
Yeast provide the flavor in your bread, in your wine, in your beer. They're
Champagne.
Yeah, champagne as well.
Without, that's what provides the bubbles.
Yeah, that too.
in your-
Yep,
in your-
that's
And they're everywhere.
It's
So
like
you
a
can't see them. They're on your skin.
Yeah, they're the culture. It is everywhere. There's everything on your skin, and so what? So now, from here, we're in West Hollywood. From here, you're going down to San Diego. What's in San Diego?
San Diego has the American Tea Masters Association. And,
Tea we drink.
Tea, as in
or
tea.
tea off. Tea.
Nope,
No,
tea
no, no.
as in the
Golf
beverage.
too.
Yeah.
And so we're meeting with a tea master, and he will be teaching us about kind of the craft and artisanal aspects of tea, production, consumption, blending. Blending is a big thing. Much like coffee blends, you have tea
Right.
blends.
Well, your tea, like you go out and buy Lipton tea,
Mhm.
just for that tea is blended by their master blenders from a variety of different teas. That's how you always get the consistency
Exactly.
of the same flavor all the time. People don't realize that it's a lot of work that goes. People that are the master blenders, they know what they're doing.
Oh, yeah.
They have to know what they're doing, and the master tasters as well.
Absolutely, but with something like Lipton, they're really going for an absolutely standardized product. But that is something on the industrial scale that small-scale artisans are trying to get in part. They want a product that resembles itself each and every time, but it doesn't necessarily have to be absolutely standardized. And that's what, in part, makes them really unique and really special and really tasty.
What product that you came across would you say you're going to go, when you go back to your normal lives, which is a really loaded question, when you go back to your normal, what you say you're really going to use it, you're going to really make sure you have this product in your house because you've learned so much about it. Anything particular other than the whiskey?
Yeah, other than the whiskey. For me personally, we worked with Glenn Roberts at Anson Mills, and Anson Mills is he's another seed person. He actually brings in corn, wheats, rices, and cultivates them and then mills them. And so he creates grits and flours and just corn much like this. But he has this really unique side business where he gives away seed too. So he's helping to propagate these old heirloom and landrace grain varieties and rice and corn varieties.
I think there's a seed vault up in the North Pole. There is. They're in the North Pole, right? Because in case of world destruction,
sure.
All right, so we can reseed.
Yeah.
And a lot of these seeds, they can't just stay in dry format. They have to be reseeded, grown, and then the seed taken out again, and they've got to keep rotating. And they send out to people like that know what they're doing, and because some seeds will stay forever dry,
yeah.
and some they have to germinate, propagate, and reseed and take it back, and you can store that for so long again.
Sure. Yeah, and Glenn's phenomenal. He has 40 growers or so growing for him for milling, and then he has about 100 across the country that he works with, where he gets the seed and he gives it away. And he's really, really dedicated to educating youth about seeds, finding young farmers who are saying, "Yeah, I'll grow this. I'll work with this," because they taste it and they can taste is such a big part. These grains taste much more flavorful, much more rich in flavor.
So you guys, this is some adventure that you really have to think. Your guys are you're 25.
That's right.
Mm-hmm. This is what you do when you're 25. This is what you do. I can't even think about going across the country unless it's in a 727.
It's a big van.
So from here, then out of California, you're going to Texas.
We're going to Colorado.
Colorado. What's in Colorado other than legal weed?
Whitewater rafting. But,
you're going to play a little.
Yeah, play a little.
Might play a day. But dram bitters.
Bitters that you make your cocktail.
Absolutely.
That's interesting. Yeah. So
we'll tell you more about them when we visit.
Do you know anything about bitters right now?
There
may be people out there that enjoy their old fashions.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, bitters started off as medicinal.
Medicinal. It was all for medicinal.
Yeah, of course. Settled your stomach.
Coca-Cola was originally invented for medicinal purposes. Yeah. It settles your stomach.
You drink gin and tonics for medicinal purposes too.
You do?
Well, you did.
You did. Oh,
you might still.
Tonic. Well, there's quinine
exactly.
in tonic, right? Yeah. So from there, and then from Colorado, you go to where?
From Colorado, we'll go down through Kansas, Oklahoma into Texas, where we'll see Dallas, Austin, and Houston.
You have people set up at each spot?
Not yet.
We have a couple in Austin, Texas. Austin, Texas is really a thriving artisanal food scene and really just a very progressive community in general. There are a few places out there like Asheville, North Carolina, Madison, Portland, Oregon, San Francisco. A lot of these places have really awesome artisanal food scenes and progressive communities.
You say artisanal, meaning it's the art of this food. It defines not mass produced.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's actually one of the questions we're asking as we travel around the country is what does artisanal mean to you? Because a lot of these people label themselves as artisanal honey or artisanal whiskey or something. So what exactly does that mean?
Well, what does that mean? That's a big word.
It's a big word, and so we ask them, and a lot of them have very interesting answers.
What's the most interesting answer you've come across for artisanal?
I would say it actually came from Yiwa at Number One Sons in Arlington, Virginia. And they're fermented foods.
Yiwa.
Yep.
Yiwa.
Yep. And
sounds like a name of a Wookiee.
Yiwa. He's a funny guy.
Iwo Jima.
But they do fermented foods, pickles primarily. But he basically said it's people who give a shit, people who care.
I'm gonna grab a pickle here. We got a new boom. I can actually get up and walk. This is Pedro the Pickle.
Yeah.
Pedro the Pickle.
I happen to personally love pickles myself. I like make pickled cabbage, pickled eggs.
Oh yeah.
Now these guys gave you Mr. Pedro here.
This is Pedro.
Is the right side?
No. He actually has a nice.
Oh, there we go.
There
He's got a
it
better
is.
side. There we go.
Pedro.
Yay, Pedro the Pickle. Pedro the Pickle's made it. Here, I'll hold on to Pedro. There we go. Pedro, you sit right there now. Where was the pickle place at?
This is Arlington, Virginia.
So
Arlington, Virginia.
This is Yiwa.
Just outside of DC.
Mm-hmm.
Pedro is part of Yiwa and Caitlin's.
And what was different about their pickles?
Well, most pickles are.
I've seen a barrel of pickle in my day,
They're
Pickles
Most-
are oftentimes produced by allowing them to cure in vinegar. So you just put them in vinegar, and that's how you preserve them. But historically, they would actually have a mother brine, a mother starter,
Right, a mother-
in which it's actually yeast, and those would then convert the sugars, the latent sugars in the pickle and the water into an
So it's vinegar and
acidify it.
salt.
Yep.
Well,
You don't add
not
vinegar.
though.
It would
So it's-
acidulate
It
itself.
acidulates itself.
Right.
Right. From that
So
mother
it
produces
brine.
much stronger flavors, in my opinion, much more delicious.
Yeah.
yeast and lactic bacteria.
It takes
and a
much
couple
more
other
time,
things,
though.
too.
It takes
So
much more
when I
time.
see pickling spice in the store, what is that pickling spice? Where do you know where did that come
Just
from?
a way to flavor the brine. You can flavor it in pretty much any way you want. You could do.
Where does that spice come from? Those little beads. Pickling spice.
The
Good
bead
question.
is coriander, if I'm not mistaken.
Coriander is
and
very
typically, the
Peppercorn.
flowering dill is the
dill,
big
right.
part.
They do an awesome district dill.
Yep.
Flowering dill
Everyone's
pickles,
out there.
right? And did they make like sauerkraut and?
They do kraut.
They do kraut.
I love
sometimes
pickled
cheese.
Rye and caraway kraut.
I love pickled eggs.
They
I
do a
just love
rye
pickled
kraut.
eggs with a beet.
Oh yeah.
You do it with a beet solution. You steam the beets, add vinegar to it.
Oh, that sounds delicious.
You're
Some
making me
salt.
hungry, Joel.
Oh, I can. You know, gay marriage is legal now in California.
I heard.
fantastic.
I got married.
I know.
I'm
Congratulations.
Yes, for 27 years. Finally, now it's legal to be married.
Congratulations.
Do you want to know something? That day you're getting married, you still wake up and you still have butterflies in your stomach. On that, it's weird. Everyone
Of
always said
course.
that. I thought that's going to affect me, right?
Yeah.
No. Oh, I'm like, oh my God, what am I doing today?
Yeah.
I should have listened to Mother.
This is Chris and
I
I's.
couldn't help but notice your sombreros there with you know.
Yeah, they just kind of fell out of
I think
heaven.
they work for you. They
think so.
really do. So
Accentuated
now,
cheekbones.
well, what do you want? This all sounds kind of crazy to me. All right, I like you got some good bean education, some whiskey education,
Sure.
and we all have food, and food that's pure is better. What are you going to do with this? What do you hope to do with this? I can make. You going to make any money? Want to make any money? Try to
I
make.
would like to.
How would you make some money? You go back and be a consultant for a restaurant corporation, a food corporation, or teach? What?
Well, at the point
That's
right,
certainly a possibility.
yeah, at the point right now, we're looking just to get through the trip. We are
You'll
keeping
make it through the trip.
Step one.
We are keeping up a website about what we're up to, and when we get back, we're actually going to be
Oh,
releasing
hold
a
on, just one
series.
second. I got a text in here. Oh, are you guys gay? Are you guys a couple?
We are not a
We are
couple.
not.
You're not.
No.
So you're available.
No, we are available.
You are available.
Yeah, on the market.
Okay. Is that we have viewers checking in here?
You
on-
know?
Okay, so they are available. They are not a couple. But you've been living with each other for the last 2 months, and you got another month.
Uncomfortably close.
Uncomfortably
Yeah.
close, sleeping in the
Well,
bed.
Blue's big. He's not that big.
Yeah, it's thank God it's the summer months, right?
Right.
Right. Yeah, you had to cuddle up there for those cold nights, right?
true.
Well, it gets pretty hot too.
Yeah.
It is really hot in the van.
So
Yeah. So a series of multimedia e-journals
do
will
you
be
think you'll
producing
be able
in
to take
return.
this to someone that's looking to hire you and say, hey, look at this experience I just did across the country, and they're going to say, wow, this really blows me away. You're hired.
I mean, I think so. I mean, I think this is something that a lot of people can relate to. A lot of people want to know where their food is coming from. and
Increasingly so.
Don't necessarily have the experience of being out and being on the ground with all these individuals and knowing the stories and knowing the product and knowing how it's done.
And a lot of these small batch artisans, they spend 16 hours a day making their product,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And so if you can be kind of that medium.
I
that-
spent 16 hours with you today
I know.
making this product.
I
Yeah,
know.
I know. Yeah, I know. We can't wait to get away from
But
each
to
other.
have
No.
somebody help them with some branding or social media or kind of be a liaison between them and retail
Do,
stores.
do any of these people, is it their goal to get huge, to sell to a lot of people? That's really not their
Very,
thing.
very
Not
few of
really.
them. Very few.
They-
It's much more of a labor of love. than
Labor
it
of
is
love,
about making money.
keeping it small, keeping it consistent, and
Keeping it quality.
Oh, you did
not
a chocolate
quantity.
factory, right?
We did a couple
did a
chocolate
couple
That
chocolate
must have been
factories.
exciting.
Yeah.
Chocolate-
What was
fun.
the name of the chocolate factory?
We did
done
one
Dandelion?
in Brooklyn, which
Mast
was
Brothers.
Mast Brothers,
Uh-huh.
and one in San Francisco, Dandelion.
Mhm.
Both coasts. Dandelion chocolate.
That's right. They're both bean to bar chocolate makers, which is an interesting concept.
What?
because they
Explain
really,
bean to bar.
They follow it from the stages of production all the way up the chain. So you start
But the
with
beans are grown in
sourcing
South
beans.
America, right?
Well, South America,
So how do they
Venezuela,
keep their eye on that
Guatemala,
there? They have somebody
Nicaragua.
there. They have their own fields. How does that work?
They oftentimes, they take regular visits, and they
Regular.
go and they work with the small farmers, and they purchase those certain kind of beans that they want, and they pay a living wage to those farmers, whereas in the larger scale, like Hershey's market, for instance, they just buy commodity beans, whatever's cheapest.
Whichever goes out on the market,
exactly,
right.
Whatever's cheapest, not whatever's best.
It's brokered off.
Exactly.
It's brokered off.
In the case of the Mass brothers, the brothers actually took a sailboat and sailed down to the Caribbean, South American area and actually brought beans back on a sailboat. It was the first time a sailboat had unloaded cargo in Brooklyn in 70, 80 years.
Yeah.
With the cameras rolling?
Absolutely rolling.
With chocolate on it.
Absolutely. So you bring in the beans, then you roast them, and then you process them through like a conching process.
Does it have that chocolate smell while they're roasting?
Oh, yeah.
It smells so good.
Just like when you're roasting a coffee bean, it's distinctively a coffee bean.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So does it sound like a big glass of chocolate milk when you're in there, or like how does that go?
Even better, just
coffee and chocolate are actually surprisingly very similar processes. Of where they're produced, how they're then processed. And process is a strange word to use, I think, in this case, because when I think of processing, I think of factories and industrial production,
that's what
mass
comes to
production.
mind.
But this is far from that. Some people call them chocolate factories, but I mean, there's 6 people around a table splitting up beans. It's not really a factory.
So they grade the beans, or the beans are pre-graded when they come in?
The beans come in whole. Whole and shelled.
Whole and shelled.
So yeah, you go through.
How big is a chocolate bean? Like, it's way bigger than a coffee bean.
Yes.
So I would say it's about an inch, maybe an inch and a half.
Is it sold like by the pound, a crate? How would they purchase it in bulk?
Big burlap sacks.
Yep.
I think they're probably 50 or 60 pound sacks.
That's right.
And do they have a price preset before they purchase? I mean, how does that work? How do they know? How do they keep their cost?
Yeah.
On that, is it like when that gets picked in that harvest? Do they set the price in South America? Who decides what they're paying for a pound per chocolate bean?
In the cases of bean-to-bar chocolate makers, they actually work with the growers to negotiate a living wage. And then that's oftentimes reflected in the cost of the chocolate bar. These aren't 99-cent Snickers.
No.
They're frequently a $7, $8 bar of chocolate.
And they're not meant to just be mouth. You don't just take them down. You're supposed to enjoy them.
Enjoy it, yeah.
You eat a piece at a time, and they're much more flavorful. And oftentimes you want to really detect the nuances in the flavor of these single varietal chocolates. And so the only way to do that is to really
chocolate
enjoy them
as it melts
slowly.
in your mouth as a whole is another flavor that is to be savored. The melting of chocolate. I think they have developed a chocolate that now does melt in your mouth exactly at your temperature.
But not in your hands.
Not in your hands. It's M&M's. I'm way old.
Oh, totally.
Give me
they will melt in your hands.
Give me an M&M every day. So this chick chocolate is not the chocolate you're finding in your average Hershey bar, your M&M's, Reese's peanut butter cups.
Very different.
Milky Way.
Difference between Venezuelan chocolate next to chocolate from Nicaragua or Papua New Guinea. Most chocolates, for instance, is dried out in the sun. The cocoa beans are. In Papua New Guinea, it's too damp, so they actually smoke it. So it has a very unique
that
flavor.
would give it another flavor altogether.
Yeah.
Smoking it.
And they're just trying to accentuate the flavor of those beans. So they don't add anything. They don't add cocoa, all the cocoa derivatives or milk even. So it's like it's very simple. They just want to accentuate the quality of the raw material that they're working with.
You guys will come back and see us again?
Sure I certainly hope so. This is our first time to West Hollywood, Joel. It's been a pleasure. I certainly hope not.
Listen, it's a Friday night and it's West Hollywood. I think the pipes are calling, as they say. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Brad. It's been a pleasure having you. Bye, West Hollywood. Hey, okay, we got it. Yeah.